The first time the scarecrow went missing, Old Man Delaney chalked it up to the wind. The second time, he started to worry. By the third time, he knew something was watching his farm. Delaney's cornfield stretched for nearly 100 acres, a dense golden sea that rustled with an ethereal whisper beneath the autumn sky. The scarecrow had stood in the same spot for years, its tattered gingham coat flapping in the wind, the burlap sack of its face stitched into an eternal grimace. It was a fixture of the farm, a guardian of the land, until one morning it was gone. Not knocked over, not torn apart, just gone. The post where it once stood jutted from the earth like a broken bone, splinters sticking up as if something had ripped it out with unnatural force. At first, Delaney figured a storm had taken it, though the night before had been still. Frustrated, he built a new one, hammering the post deeper into the ground this time. The next morning, that one was gone too, ripped clean from the soil. He didn't tell anyone. What the hell could he even say? That something was stealing his scarecrows? Instead, he spent his nights on the porch, shotgun resting across his lap. The corn swayed gently, whispering to itself in the breeze. The stars above stretched endlessly, cold and distant. Hours passed, but nothing moved. Then on the seventh night, something knocked on his door. A slow, deliberate thud. Delaney had just left the porch and was preparing to sleep. He fetched the shotgun sitting next to his bed and gripped it hard, his pulse hammering. It was nearly 2 a.m. No one should have been out there. The knocking came again, louder, more insistent. He walked slowly to the door, his boots scuffing against the wooden planks of the house. The dim light from the lantern cast flickering shadows, stretching long across the floor. Slowly he reached for the doorknob, twisting it just enough to peek outside. The porch light flickered. At first he saw nothing, just his red truck parked near the barn, the endless stretch of his cornfield shifting in the wind. But then, a figure stood at the edge of the field, its gingham jacket flowing with the wind. It was wearing the missing scarecrow's clothes. The moonlight barely reached it, but Delaney could make out its shape. Tall, thin, its limbs nearly touching the ground, its head cocked unnaturally to one side. The shadows clung to it, refusing to let go. It shouldn't have been able to stand like that. So still, so unnatural. The thing had 3 long claws on one hand, about a foot long, perfect for slicing its prey or chopping down corn stalks. Delaney's mouth went dry. He lifted the shotgun instinctively, but his arms felt weak. The thing didn't move. It just stood there, half hidden in the shadow of the corn, its head tilted, watching him. The wind picked up, sending the corn stalks into a soft rustling wave. The thing stepped forward just enough to catch the light of the moon. Its face was scarred and gray. Its eyes glowed as yellow as the corn. Delaney had just enough time to make out its features before it darted for him, its heavy, unrelenting footsteps resulting in a loud chorus of thuds that almost shook the house. Delaney slammed the door. He locked it, bolted it, stepped back, chest heaving. From outside he heard scraping, a long, slow drag of something sharp across the wooden frame. Then, silence. The whole scene lasted but a minute. 1 second the creature bolted for the house, and another it was gone. Delaney peered through a window and scanned his property. It was as if the creature had simply run off. Delaney didn't go into town much anymore, But that morning, he found himself gripping the wheel of his truck, heading toward the feed store. He needed someone, anyone, to tell him he wasn't losing his mind. The bell jingled as he stepped inside, the familiar scent of dust and grain settling around him. A few of the usuals were gathered near the register, old men swapping stories, sipping coffee. Sheriff Caldwell stood among them, his uniform stretched tight over his round belly. "Delaney," Caldwell greeted with a nod. "Ain't seen you in a while." Delaney hesitated, then, "Something's been messing with my farm." The men exchanged glances. "Coyotes?" someone asked. Delaney shook his head. "Ain't no coyote." He swallowed hard. "Something's been stealing my scarecrows." Silence, then a chuckle. Caldwell smirked. "You saying we got a scarecrow thief?" Delaney bristled. "I ain't crazy." Caldwell raised his hands. "Relax, just a joke." "I saw something last night," Delaney continued, voice lower. "It was wearing the scarecrow's clothes, standing in my field. It wasn't human, had 3 long claws, a thing of nightmares." At that, the room shifted. The air tightened. The laughter died. An old man near the back set his coffee down. "You ought to burn that field, Delaney." Delaney frowned. "What?" The corn crop was how he made a living. There was no way he would entertain that idea. The old man, Frank Abbott, one of the oldest farmers in town, leaned forward. His voice was almost a whisper. "Ain't the first time someone's seen that thing. Been around longer than any of us." Delaney's stomach nodded. "What the hell is it?" Frank shook his head. "No one knows. Some say it's been here since before the town. Only comes when the harvest is bad, an omen." Frank's words echoed in Delaney's head. Delaney didn't believe in legends, but he had seen something. Caldwell sighed, rubbing his temple. "Look, Delaney, I'll drive out there tonight. Take a look myself." Delaney nodded. He should have felt relief, but something inside him whispered, "Too late." That night, Caldwell parked his cruiser near the barn, stepping out with a flashlight in hand. "All right," he muttered. "Let's see what's got Delaney all spooked." The corn swayed in the breeze, golden stalks whispering to one another. The air smelled of damp earth. He clicked on the flashlight, sweeping the beam over the field. "Nothing," he sighed. "Damn farmers, always—" A snap. His heart stuttered. Something moved in the corn. He swung the flashlight toward the noise. The beam landed on something tall and wrong. It was wearing the scarecrow's clothes, but its legs were too long. Its arms hung too low. Its head was too smooth. Just a burlap sack stretched over something that shouldn't have been human. Then it twitched. Caldwell stumbled back. The thing cocked its head, mirroring him. Then it moved, not walking, jerking, like something figuring out how to use its limbs. Caldwell's breath hitched. He reached for his gun, but his fingers felt slow. "Number." The thing stepped closer. Then it spoke. A voice stitched together from many voices. Men, women, children, all speaking at once. "The fall of this second moon, he will rise." Caldwell ran. He barely made it to the truck before the field exploded with movement. Shapes rising from the corn. More of them. He slammed the door shut just as the first hand hit the glass. The next morning, Delaney found Caldwell's truck abandoned at the farm gate. The driver's side door hung open. The seat was covered in dust like no one had sat there for years. No blood, no signs of struggle. Just gone. Delaney swallowed hard. Then he turned to the field. The scarecrows were back, standing perfectly still in the morning fog.